Hey there, I'm your host, Leslie Randolph. I'm a self-confidence coach for teenage girls and the self-confidence coach you wish you had as a teen. Honestly, I'm the self-confidence coach I wish I had as a teen because I know I could have saved myself and my mother a whole lot of heartache if I'd only known then what I know now. I hope to save you some of that suffering by sharing the lessons I learned late in life right here on Why Didn't They Tell Us? Welcome to the show. Welcome back to Why Didn't They Tell Us? I am your host, Leslie Randolph. And when I'm not here sharing the lessons I learned late in life or on social, sharing my aha moments and my words of wisdom as the Coach Chronicles, you'll find me coaching teenage girls and teaching them tools to cultivate self-confidence. Here's why. Self-confidence, that awesome alchemy of knowing who you are, loving and believing in her, that, my friends, is the secret sauce to creating the life of your dreams. I always say that there's no one size fits all in the life of your dreams department. And today's guest is proof of that. Because she's not only creating a business and a brand that she loves, that is the life of her dreams, but she's helping other women do the same. Y'all, I gotta take a deep breath before I read this bio because, it's a lot. Okay. With nearly 25 years of marketing and sales experience behind her, Lindsay Pinchuk is an award-winning entrepreneur, consultant, community builder, connector, a storyteller, an expert marketer, a social media maven, a spokesperson, an on-air expert, small business champion, and a mother. Since 2010, Lindsay's lent her expertise to more outlets than I can say. 75 podcasts. She's been featured and contributed to stories in Time Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, Parents.com, The Doctors, Access Live, Chicago Tribune, Crain's. It goes on and on. In January of 2022, Lindsay launched Dear Found Her, a top 2% podcast, a twice weekly love letter helping female entrepreneurs build, scale, and sell their businesses. You might have heard some of her past guests, including Bobby Brown, Dr. Becky Kennedy from Good Inside, Jen Sherman from Peloton, Catherine Reitman from Netflix's Working Mom. You guys, I could go on and on. Y'all, is this woman not a boss? Lindsay, welcome to Why Didn't They Tell Us? I am so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here, and I'm honored to be here, and thank you so much for asking me to be a guest. I adore you, and I love just any time I get to spend with you, so thanks for having me here.
It is very mutual, and she's right. I guess I don't have a space in her bio yet, but I also have the privilege of calling Lindsay a friend and a confidant for me, as I very unexpectedly became a female found her. So not only do I have, the privilege of getting to call her and even before we got on air, talk about things like what's new on Netflix and what we should be watching, but then to also bounce business ideas off of, because I think becoming a female found her and being a female found her can be a lonely place if you don't have community. And community is one of Lindsay's just like signature methods. Building community is one of the things she says, and I'm so thankful to be part of her. So I know I kicked it off with this bio that, is so impressive. But why don't you tell people a little bit more about you, who you are, what you do, but really, and why you do it.
Yeah. So, I think the biggest way, if you were to use one word to describe me, I would say it's a connector. That's every single thing that I have done in my life is to connect other people, to connect me with people, to connect. I love making connections. Even before I started Bump Club, I worked in advertising, and people would call me and say, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? And I would connect them. And that was kind of how the notion of Bump Club came to be. I found myself pregnant, which was planned, and we were very excited, but none of my friends were pregnant. And so, I wanted to connect with other pregnant women, and we didn't have social media. I was not going on Meetup. That was not an option for me. And so I sent an email and I said, I'm going to host a prenatal class, prenatal workout. Does anyone want to come? And through word of mouth, we filled 2 rooms. We had about 45 people who came. And, that was through my connections, right? I mean, it was like just through an email and word of mouth. And I ended up building this company that, was community based. I mean, it was based on word of mouth connections, people saying how they loved their experiences with us, connecting women not only to each other, but to the best brands and to the best experts. It was all about connections. And, back to what you just said that, being a female founder is very lonely. And I also accidentally became a female founder. I was not intending for Bump Club to be this big thing. Now, I will say I'm never one to half-ass anything. Anyone who knows me really well knows, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go balls to the walls, right? But and I did with Bump Club, but I also never intended to be a female founder. I didn't have a business plan. I knew no one who was an entrepreneur. I had a couple of friends who owned, a store or a workout place, but not these giant big businesses. And I was like, who am I going to talk to about any of this? And it was very, very lonely. And so, I had to make my own connections while I was building this business so that I could learn from other people, be supported by other people, grow from other people. And, when I sold the company, I built the company, I don't want to get into, so much about the company. I built the company, we reached 3 million people a month. We were profitable from day one. We generated 7 figures for the last 6 years, and it was done on community. I didn't have a product. I sold sponsorships to brands who wanted to reach my community. That is really what it was. And after I sold it, I also once again felt very lonely. I was no one knows what I'm going through, not even my husband. I was depressed. I was just this is the worst, no one knows what I'm dealing with at the moment. And so I started reaching out to people, other female founders who I knew had either sold or who were, got investment money, because a lot of the kind of feelings are very similar in those situations. And I started really connecting with other women that were in that situation. And from there, I made the decision eventually to leave, and I left Bump Club, and I said to myself, I need to be helping other women. I need to help other women to not just find the success that they are looking for in their entrepreneurial endeavors, but to also, find happiness while doing it, and to connect with other women, because that's how you do it. I mean, you learn from other people's experiences. So, I always say if one person learns from me, then I've done my job. And I really truly feel that way. I think it's so important to have those connections around you. And that's what I'm continuing to do. So now today I have my podcast, Dear Found Her. And then I am also consulting and coaching and teaching classes on how to build brands, but also I'm connecting other women. And I think that's a really big part of it. Anyone who takes a class from me knows I put you all in a Facebook group together so you can connect with other people. That's a very big part of it, and connect with me. So, I would say, when you said describe yourself, I am a connector. I mean, that is what I thrive on. That is what I love to do. I love, making partnerships for people. I love introducing people. I love introducing people, then seeing the fruits of that introduction. So that's I guess a little bit about me. I'm also a mom. I have 2 kids. They're amazing. I didn't even bring them up yet, but everything I do is for them.
Yeah, no, that's a really good why. I want to say, you say connector. I often say that my job as a coach is to be a professional cheerleader, but Lindsay truly is a professional cheerleader. When she is connected to you, she is just cheering you on every step of the way and saying this is what you can be doing and this is what you can be doing. And so that's part of your connection. And I think it's just so incredible. Those TV segments that I referenced from her bio, it's her typically, from the ones that I have seen, promoting other small business owners, promoting her fellow founders, her fellow female founders. And I just think that's so incredible. And if we were all, cheering each other on and rooting each other to our finish lines, what a beautiful world it would be. But I'm going to go back for a moment to something that Lindsay said. And I think it's so important, whether you're tuning in as a female founder, just a fan of Lindsay's, even my teenage listeners, tune into this one. She started a 7-figure business, and this is one of the things that she talks about a lot on her podcast, Dear Found Her, by sending an email. Did y'all catch that? She sent an email. Now, she thinks that it was because she had this community, but in order to send that email, you needed to have such confidence that this could work, right? What did it feel like to send that email? And I know since then you've sent many emails that have changed your life.
So that's a really, really good question. And the funny thing is that I wasn't sure, right? I mean, I was not sure at all. And the even funnier thing was I was pregnant when I sent that email and no one knew. I was 8 weeks pregnant. Okay. So not only was I sending this email about a business to support expectant moms, I was sending this email. I had been married for, 4 or 5 years at this point. Everyone was expecting me to get pregnant soon. It was bump watch for Lindsay. And I sent an email saying, I'm starting a company to support pregnant women, but hey, by the way, I'm not pregnant yet. Or I didn't say that, but I wasn't publicly pregnant. So there was this extra layer of I don't even know what to call it, but it was just, it was unsureness, I guess, surrounding it. But I wholeheartedly believed in my idea. And that is the big thing, is that I really and truly believed that women who were pregnant needed to find other women who were pregnant, because I was pregnant, even though no one knew I was pregnant. And I was I don't know anyone who's pregnant right now. We all have 6th graders, all of my friends. So, I was just first, but I wanted to find out who was pregnant and meet other pregnant people. And I announced my pregnancy the week before my first event. So I didn't have to go to any events, secretly pregnant. But, and I don't think many people were surprised when I did. But, but at the same time, I sent this email because I believed in what I was doing. And I always ask myself, what's the worst that happens?
Yes.
No one wants to come. Well, that's the worst that happens. No one wants to come. And then it's just an idea that didn't come to fruition. I asked myself that question when I eventually left my corporate job. What's the worst that happens? Well, the worst that happens is my company doesn't take off and I have to go get another job. And can I live with that? Yep, I can. And if you can't live with it, then you need to reevaluate the decision, right?
Right. But exactly. But when you ask yourself, and that's that question shows up in a lot of my coaching sessions of okay, let's play out the worst case scenario. What does that look like? And it's always a lot better when you say it out loud. And we're I could totally live with that. But could I live with never knowing? What if she had never sent that email, you guys? What if she, because that one email was just the domino that created this life of her dreams. And it started with, yes, I see that it was the belief in the concept, right? You're there is a need here. The same way you're there's a need for moms and expectant moms. Now for your 2.0, there's a need for female founders to have connection and community and to have the knowledge that I have. But there's the belief in the concept, but there's also that belief in you being able to do it. And we might not always feel that, but if there's 10% of it.
Right. And I wasn't sure that I could do it, but you know what? I really took it step by step, right? I knew that at first I could host a prenatal yoga class for 25. It ended up being close to 50, but for 25 women. I knew that I could do that. And I did it, and then you look at it and you're okay, well, I just did that. And then I asked everyone, well, what do you want next? And did you like your experience? And what was the best part about it? And, you also have to have thick skin to take feedback, and we got a lot of feedback at Bump Club, especially early on, but I asked for it. I asked for it so I could make changes so that I could meet the needs of my customers. And I do that now too. I mean, I have developed certain classes because people are asking me for certain things. There are things I want to teach, but they're not always the things people want to learn. And so, I think, Leslie, did you take social media for small business? I can't remember. I'm sorry.
No, I took a 5-day boot camp. Okay. I don't think it's the same thing.
Okay. So social media for small business was a class I taught last year. I haven't taught it since. And due to some of the things I've been sharing on social media, people are now asking for it again. And so I'm bringing it back, and so if people want it, of course I'm going to teach it, you know? So like you really have to ask for the feedback and be willing to take it and adapt and shift. And that's just not just in business, it's in life.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. And I think also really to go back to something that you just said that I think is so critical of Lindsay didn't know what that finish line looked like, right? You didn't, if I could have gone back to 2010 and say, okay, tell me what Bum Club is going to look like. You're like, I just need to plan a prenatal yoga class. It was like one foot in front of the other. And I think sometimes, certainly when starting a business, but again, you know, to use these skills towards anything in life, we have this idea of what it's going to look like being this linear path. And in no way could anyone, and if you ask any of your female founders, if you would talk to Bobby Brown or anyone that you've spoken to, would they be able to say, this was the path to take?
No. And truthfully, like when I started, it was like one day at a time. It wasn't even like I was working too, and I was pregnant. And it was really just taking one day at a time. What did people want? What did people need? You know, after the first 2 events, people were telling me they wanted like a dinner or a speaker. So I started planning that and I started building. Like every day was another block that I built, you know, onto this. And it really and truly probably wasn't into like the second year that I was like, okay, like, yes, I'm making money now and I'm paying myself and I have an employee, but here's where I think it's going to go, at least in the next year. And then here's where it's going to maybe go in like 3 years. But I never planned like more than a year in advance. I mean, really and truly, like as the opportunities came to me, I changed and adapted and upped my game. And you know, I knew probably in like year 4 or 5 that eventually I wanted to either sell it or get investment money. I knew that, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I would say it was probably not till year 6 or 7 that I was like, okay, this is what I want to do for my exit. Like there was not a path that I followed. There was not a blueprint. There was not a plan. You know, I really took every day at a time. And then like, of course, you know, eventually planned a little bit further out. You know, we would plan like year over year and whatnot, but you just don't know. You don't know. And like, and I'm sorry, but like no entrepreneur knows. So like you can plan all you want, but you better understand that as much as you plan, you're going to have to undo the plan because things don't go as planned. They just don't.
Yeah. And to use those, you know, you didn't talk about any failures, but I'm sure there were some events.
Oh my God, there were so many failures. Are you kidding? So many failures.
And just to use those as like data collection, right?
Yep.
Of like, oh, okay, that didn't work. So we went down this path and apparently we're going to have to take a few steps back and we'll try this path. But it's like, if you let those failures stop you, if you quit, or if you make that mean something, that's when, I mean, that path, you're the one shortening that path.
Correct. Yeah, without a doubt. I yes, you are absolutely right. And I always say like you have to fail in order to succeed. And it is the truth. Like, you know, and I've been very forthcoming now. Like, I mean, I posted something yesterday. Like I had like I was like having like a shit day yesterday. And I was like, oh, like I like don't have like enough clients. And like, I was just like, but I mean, I think I do, but like in my heart, I feel like I don't, you know, like I just like I wanted some more work. And then I looked at my calendar and I was like, oh my God, I have like all these calls. I had 2 calls yesterday that like turned my whole day around, you know, like they were great calls with people. Like it wasn't just like people who wanted to hire me. It was people who wanted to hire me to do exactly what I want to do. And that's the difference too. You know, like there are a lot of people that like ask and inquire about services for me, but I don't always want to work for them, or I don't always want to do what it is that they want me to do. And so when someone comes to me and they're like, this is what I need from you, and it's exactly what I want to do and provide and share, that to me is like the end all and be all. But, you know, everyone has those moments, right? And everyone has moments of, you know, I'm down in a rut, and everyone has moments of triumph, but you have to take those failures and those shitty moments and turn them around and know that they're going to lead to something better. And they usually do. And it sounds like cheesy and cliche, but like it really is true. You cannot grow unless you fail, period.
I know, and it is. It's like something that we would find on a needlepoint pillow, and most of what comes out of my mouth is cheesy and cliche, but I believe it with every breath in my body, right? And that failure is such a critical part of growth, and failure is such a critical part of like learning, and you cannot succeed without failing. It's just not possible. But it's so hard. It's so hard.
It is so hard. And, and something that I can only talk to a certain degree because I still am under some contracts with the sale of my company. But, the sale of my company didn't go the way I wanted it to go. I've been very forthcoming about that. I think people can gather that from a lot of what I say without even me being so direct about it. It did not go as planned. Okay. However, and for a long time, I felt that because it didn't go as planned that I had failed. And I was really hard on myself. I mean, really, really hard on myself. And I was like, I built this whole company, I sold it, and like, well, I don't regret it, which I don't regret selling it because worse would have happened had I not sold it. But it didn't go as planned. And so I felt like I had failed myself, my family. It was like a lot of pressure. And it really wasn't until I like opened my eyes and I was like, ooh, wait. We have to like flip the switch on this because I sold a fucking company. Like most people don't do that. And it wasn't until someone opened my eyes to that and said it might not have gone as planned, but you did something that most entrepreneurs, especially female entrepreneurs, don't do. And now it has set you up to be able to do even more in your 2.0. And so like, it really wasn't until that moment that I like actually believed that I succeeded with Bump Club.
I think that's such an important thing to notice because notice how it's just mindset, right? And how you look at something and even how that turned out for you. You were like, wait a minute, I'm a failure. But then when you zoom out and are able to take that step back and be like, hold up, I'm not a failure. And I want everyone to hear something really quickly because this isn't just like saying the nice thing to you. Like there's just never a benefit in beating yourself up. Lindsay can look back and say like lessons learned. Man, if I ever, am selling in another company, check. And I'm going to share these lessons that I learned late in life with my fellow female founders in this 2.0. It doesn't need to mean anything about me being a failure. These are actions I did, not who I am.
Correct.
And that changes the whole story. And you can look, and I want to say one last thing. You can look at that and be like, I'm a failure, and then feel awful. Or you can look at that and say, lessons learned, and I'm going to crush it next time. Lessons learned, and I'm going to pass this on. And then also, when you take that step back and zoom out, not only did you sell a 7-figure company, you did all that. Like when you think about like your 13-year-old self looking at you, like, wait a minute, we sold we created that?
And really it's that mindset to your point because with the lessons and the failures, like I firmly believe that my whole experience, the holistic experience of me forming, founding, building, scaling, selling, and even not having the outcome the way I wanted it to be, that whole holistic experience is what has allowed me to do what I do now. And I'm the happiest I've been in a long time. So that says something too.
Yeah. I think that, just knowing that if you keep going down the road, there is happiness again. There is lessons to learn, but you got to keep going, right? And you can't stay there. So, I mean, we've just covered a lot of lessons learned late in life. And again, if you have the privilege, and you should, please like tune in to Dear Founders, more knowledge than you'll ever know. But that being said, if you could give me one lesson learned late in life that you would pass on, what would that be?
I mean, honestly, not to give a shit what other people think. And I think anyone who follows me and knows me, I don't subscribe to bullshit. I don't do things because other people do them. I don't buy things because other people buy them. And that's like a hard thing, right? Especially when you live in certain places. Like, but I just don't care. I am myself. I am who I am. I care about the things that I care about. And you're not going to be my friend because I'm carrying a certain bag or driving a certain car, or because, I do a certain thing on the weekend or whatever. You're my friend because you love me. And really and truly, like, I mean, I think I've always been a little like that to some degree, but I mean, definitely like, in college, I subscribed more than I subscribe. Like, I don't subscribe now at all. I unsubscribe. But, in college, I definitely subscribed and was more of a conformist than I am now. But, I am who I am, and I'm so comfortable with that. Like, I was just sharing with someone that, like, I went to an event last night with really freaking amazing women, like amazing, amazing women, and like also really fancy women. And, I'm not fancy. Like I don't pretend to be. And like, but I'm fine. I can fit in just fine being myself. And I'm comfortable enough with myself to like, know that like, I'm cool. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't have to be wearing a certain thing or carrying a certain bag or having my makeup done a certain way. Like, everyone is to each their own, and this is me, and I'm okay with that. So, and I love all of those women just the same, and they're themselves, and that's how, how they do life, and this is how I do life. And I think it's so important to say that, especially to your teenage listeners, like, just be yourself, because I will say that, like, I am the most fulfilled that I've ever been now. I have the strongest connections with the people I'm supposed to be connected with. I've connected with people who I never in a million years would have thought would have on speed dial. And it's because I was myself, not because I was someone else. And so I that is something that I think is just really, really important. And if you want to be fancy, great, be fancy, but be yourself, if that's yourself, but that's not me. And that's okay, and I'm cool with it. So, right? Like, I mean, it's like, I'm not going to judge you. Don't judge me. Like, don't look me up and down. I'm not going to look you up and down. Like, you do you, I'll do me, and we can still be friends. Right. But like, I'm just very comfortable in my own skin and I don't care what people think. And I speak my mind. Like, and I also with Bump Club and now I do share my opinions, not opinions that I'm trying to force on people, but like I share what I think. Like I share my beliefs. Like if I believe in something, I share it. And if you don't believe in it, that's okay. No one's faulting you. You don't have to stick around. That's fine. And if you want to talk to me about it, that's okay too. But like I'm like comfortable enough that I can share things and not worry about what other people are going to think about me.
Amen. Amen, my friends. Y'all, I'm fancy and I own it. I love being fancy, but I think that's it. You just need to know when we talk about self-confidence, like you can't walk into a room with self-confidence being something you're not. Self-confidence only comes when you know who you are, when you find your voice, when you find your values. And if you listen to the podcast, but also follow Lindsay on social, which she is just, self-described social media maven. She is very vocal. She is very true to who she is. And if you don't like her, that's okay. And I think that is so hard. Yes, like our younger selves, our teenage brain is like, ooh, I hope they like me. I hope they like me. But when you are willing to say, but I like me, and that's what matters most, life changes.
Well, and I don't do things to get people to like me. I do things because I believe in myself and I like myself. So like, I was telling someone the other day who I've been advising recently, or actually today, I was telling someone that I've been advising, like, you just showed up. Like you showed up as yourself on social media and look what's happened. Like the people have just come out of the woodwork. And this actually is true for two clients of mine. One who is has a bigger public persona and one who does not. And both of them, they're the same age. They actually live in the same location. They know each other. And both of them have experienced the same type of response to what they have done online, which is they have shown up as their self, they've shared as their self, they haven't given a shit about what anyone thinks of them, and the right people are magnetized to them and want more. And so now they have to give them more. But, so I think that just goes to show too, like, don't show up and like spew someone else's information or someone else's viewpoint. Just like be yourself, like be yourself.
Yep. And I love that particularly for my teens and moms of teens, all of us, right? Like if you're showing up as someone you're not and you're attracting people being that person, like those aren't your people. And yeah. I listened to a recent episode of Lindsay's and I shared this with her before we got on the air, was like, when she speaks her voice, when she shares her values, those beliefs, she sometimes her business is built online. So social media, those insights say a lot about her business. And for our teens who look at their likes as a sign of like likability, right? Like I am only as lovable as how many likes I get on Instagram or on my latest TikTok. If we see people leaving because you're being you, those aren't your people. And you don't want to be someone else and attracting those people that aren't you. Like that's a long life of friends that you don't even like.
So I love that we're talking about this because I tell everyone, my clients, my students, everyone, just ignore the vanity metrics. It's not about how many people follow. It's not about your likes. It's really about your engagement and your reach, right? Like how many people are you reaching with your message that are seeing your message, and how many people are engaging with you? Because that is definitely more of a metric that I want, is higher engagement than higher followers. And I just also shared with someone today, like when I started Bump Club, I didn't show up. I first of all, there were no influencers. I didn't show up though to be like, I'm going to be famous. And like, not that I am famous, but like, at Bump Club, people definitely knew my face more than now. We had a lot more followers and it was, I was the face of this brand. But I never intended to like be on TV or do any of that. That came very naturally as part of the territory. Like I had an expertise and people started calling me for it. And so I shared it, and now like I don't need 1 million followers. Like if people want to follow me, wonderful. If people like what I have to say, great. If they want to buy my class, even better, but I don't care how many people follow me. Like that's not my intention. I just want to be known as being like a brilliant businesswoman and a brilliant marketer. That's to me like what I want to be known for, not an influencer. I want to be influential. There's difference. I want to be influential, but I do not want to be an influencer. And to your point, Leslie, like I share a lot about my viewpoints and things that are important to me. I share about abortion and being pro-choice. I share about anti-Semitism. I share about gun control. Okay. Those are kind of 3 things and I share about other issues, social issues too. But when you look at my insights on social media, posts that are about those 3 things are my most highly engaged posts, which to me is like, as a business person, actually kind of annoying because I want people to like be there for, the education, not necessarily for the controversy. But I also know when I use my platform to share those things, part of why those posts have the numbers they do is because other people believe in them and share them. I get a ton of engagement. There's a ton of meaningful conversation. So yes, I lose followers every time I share something like that. And I kind of call it a cleanse. Like, I don't want the people who are gonna not be like, I don't want the people who, you don't have to always agree with me. I want to say that, like, we don't always have to be in agreement, but I want the right people to be following me for the right reasons. And when you post about yourself and when people are buying you, like people buy me, that's why they buy my services. They need to like know who they're getting. And so the right people need to be following me and engaging with me on social media. And I'd rather have that high engagement with them than have more followers. And I don't care if you unfollow me. I might not be for you and I'm not for everyone and I'm okay with that. And like, that's the same for everyone. Was that like a good way to describe that?
Yes, because we would say the same to our daughters. We would say the same to anyone, especially, and I love what Lindsay just said, because like her business, her brand, that and her identity are so, it's one and the same. She is her brand. So she needs to love that identity and that brand.
Well, and also like, I could not imagine like, okay, and I'll give an example. So I did a pod swap with these 2 women, And it turned out we had very different political views, and not just political views. Like one of them was pro Second Amendment in a way that was really made me sick, especially after July 4th of last year. And I was like, oh, and I had already shared this episode, and I don't promote that episode. I mean, I haven't removed it, but I don't promote that episode, and I don't really promote them because we're just different. And if someone's gonna I don't really want to be associated with that. And I would never want to be hired. I probably wouldn't take work from someone that I knew was just so inherently different and butt heads with me and was outspoken, like the way I'm outspoken about an issue, and you don't have to be the same as everyone. That's not what I'm saying. But I want to work with people that I am excited to show up and work for, and excited to show up and meet and connect with and do things with. And this just it didn't feel good to me it on a lot of levels. And so, and not that they were going to hire me, but if they wanted to hire me, I wouldn't have taken the money I would have probably said no, thank you. And I do say no, thank you actually a lot, but yeah. Does that make sense?
Totally. Because you can't be, and this goes back to a lot of what we covered, you can't be everything to everyone. You can't, and as you started Bum Club, while you accepted that feedback, right? And I even think about the 2 calls that you had yesterday of this is exactly what I want to be doing, right? And those are life lessons, and certainly when starting a business, because it's and as an entrepreneur, there is this feeling a lot of I don't know where my next client's coming from. I don't know where the next paycheck is coming from. I have to create all of that, right? When you're an employee, you know where the next paycheck is coming from.
Absolutely.
As an entrepreneur, you do not. And so it takes such, I should have a bell every time I say confidence. It takes such confidence and belief in you to be able to say, I know who I am and I love that person, and I'm willing to say no to this and believe that there are the right yeses coming. I don't need to compromise who I am and what I believe in order to get ahead.
Well, and I will say that was something that transpires from Bump Club as well. And I think that's why Bump Club was so successful. From day one at Bump Club, we only talked about products that we collectively, as a team, as my team grew, we collectively would use for our own children. And I had plenty of brands who reached out to me and were like, oh, we'd love to do a paid program with you. We'd love to pay you. And I didn't believe in the product, or maybe someone on my team didn't believe in the product and showed me why. And to me, that opinion was valid enough, even if it was something maybe I would use. We collectively had to agree because we did not want to compromise our trust with our community. And we never did. I never took money to put a Band-Aid on something or as a quick money grab. We never did that. And, of course there were times that I didn't pay myself. But that was okay because the longevity of the trust that I earned from the community is what kept us afloat. And that's, and then there was another brand who wanted to, work with us in even a bigger capacity. So it's really important in business and in life that you just stay true to your own values and you don't compromise your integrity for short-term gain.
Yes. And that ability to say that short-term discomfort for that long-term success. And that is, again, the lessons learned in business are lessons learned in life, right? That I don't need to say yes right now because it'll eliminate some of that discomfort and uncertainty when I can look down the road and know that good things are coming.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's how I built my whole career, I mean, even now, the thing that I think that is icky about social media right now is that you can show up and kind of be anyone you want to be, and you can share other people's views, and they might not be your own. And, there's a lot of jargon people use, and I tell people all the time when they're looking for people to hire or coaches or whatnot, that you have to look beyond what the person is actually saying. You have to look at their experiences. You have to look at their history, because anyone can say anything. on social media. But if they don't have the stories, the experiences, the trust to back that up, it really, whatever they're saying, it means nothing. Because especially now with AI and, everyone's having things written for them, like, it's crazy to me. But, I every single thing that I do is like about being myself and trust. And that's just kind of the two bottom lines, and just, showing up authentically.
Yeah. And we're so thankful you do, because it helps the rest of us. You're like a permission slip of, as we build a business, as we build brands, as we become brands. And your brand can just be who you are, my friend. Just be you. Like,
yes,
there's already a Lindsay. There's a Lindsay out there. We don't need another one. I mean, it'd be awesome. And I'd love many Leslies, but we already got two of them. Be you, my friends. So tell me something of, as you coach people and you tell them, like, be you, how can people implement that? Like, what tips do you have for people as they establish their own brands and become their authentic selves?
The first thing that I always tell everyone in every client interaction and every class is to tell your story. And I think that's an exercise that a lot of people, like, they're like, huh, but like, really, like, sit down and write out your story. Like, what's your story? Who are you? What do you do? How do you do it? And really, most important, why do you do it? Because it's the why that's going to connect you with your community. Like, that's what draws people to you. So that is really the first step that I would say in terms of building your own brand, is not just writing your story down and telling it once, but you got to tell it over and over and over again. And I actually tell people that they need to share it at least once a month. But then the other thing is you got to get over, like, showing up on social media, because people want to buy from people. And a lot of what I'm saying right now, you'll hear me say on social media all the time. People want to buy from people. So you just got to show up. You don't have to do a million takes. People like, here I am, like, I can't find my words right now. And, like, that's okay. That's life. Like, you don't have to be rehearsed. You don't have to read. Don't read. Like, people don't want to see you reading from a teleprompter. Just show up as you, and, like, share your experiences, pull back the curtains, share things that you like that might not have anything to do with your brand or your company or whatever it is that you're selling. People want to know who is behind the exterior. And it's so important that you share those things. Like, I just had a conversation with someone. They were like, oh my God, we didn't talk about Daisy Jones and I didn't respond to your story online. Well, yeah, I put it up there, but, like, look, then we had this conversation, right? So, like, and that has nothing to do with my brand or, like, building companies or whatever, but people, it brings up conversation. And so you just want to converse and put yourself out there as yourself. And the other thing too that I would say, and this is like a very superficial thing, but, like, don't worry about, like, being made up and having your hair done and, like, to go online. Like, I go online, usually, like, my most viewed reels are the ones that I put up on a whim at 12:30 a.m. with my hair in a bun and I'm in sweats laying on my couch. Those are the ones that are watched the most. And so just show up as you, like, in your natural state. Like, everyone's kind of over the, like, filters and this and that. And, like, you don't need, like, sometimes I do put a filter on, don't get me wrong, because at that time of day, my face is looking kind of scary, but you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you don't have to be someone you're not when you show up online. And so it's just knowing and accepting the fact that people will accept you for you and having the confidence to do that. And they will.
Mm-hmm. It's so good. It actually, if you wait for the perfect time, it goes back to, like, actually the first thing Lindsay said, and this is such a perfect full circle of this interview. Her brain could have told her, like, how can I send this email 8 weeks pregnant? No one knows. Like, there's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be the perfect lighting or the perfect hair or the perfect lip for you to do the perfect reel. Like, let's, like, purge perfection, because it ain't happening. You just got to start and you just got to go. The first step, you've said this, that first step is always the scariest. So
you just have to do it.
You just have to do it.
You just have to do it. And I say that all the time. Like, it's okay to be messy. It's not going to be perfect. And I will tell you that 9 out of 10 founders that I've had on my podcast, very big, successful founders, female founders, have said, like, my website wasn't the way I wanted it to be, or my class wasn't what I wanted it to be, or the prototype was, the handle fell off the bag. I literally had a purse company be like, yeah, and the handles were falling off. It was kind of a problem, but they still sold $70,000 worth of these purses, so like, you just have to show up and just start. And it really is taking that first step. And something that I've talked about a lot on social media lately, especially as it pertains to social media and people's nervousness of like being on social, is taking the first step. You can't be like thinking like, oh my God, but there's reels and there's stories and there's this and there's TikTok and no, just take the first step, show up and share your story. Show up and share your story, put up a post, maybe make a quick video about it, but one step at a time. And you really have to break it down to those steps and you build upon it. And I think a lot of people, like I'm turning 44 this year, I think a lot of women who are my age and older, especially, and even some a little younger, but my age and older, are more overwhelmed with social media from like a technical standpoint, and they feel like there's just so much and they're never going to get it. That is not the case. Like, you just have to start though. Like, you have to do one thing, learn how to do it, and then do the next thing and learn how to do it. And like that's like what I teach people to do. And I have a lot of clients finding success from the basics. Like, just, you don't have to make fancy reels. You don't need templates. You don't even need music. Just like the basics. So just start, whatever it is.
Just start and be you. Mm-hmm. Sage wisdom, my friends. And there's so much more if you tune in to Dear Found Her on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcast. It is a must listen.
Thank you.
And there is a wealth of knowledge. If you want to start showing up, if you want to start being you, if you're interested in building a business, a brand, or even just dipping your toe into social media, go to lindsaypinchuk.com. I will include this in my show notes. If you are building a business and you're like, man, that really resonated when Leslie said, doing it alone. You don't have to. Lindsay will literally hold your hand. That is what she does. And she has done it for nearly 25 years. You don't have to go it alone anymore. And that's what's so beautiful. So lindsaypinchuk.com. I know she's got a lot of good things coming with the podcast, with the business. And it's just a joy to be, beside you, behind you, with you through all of it, because
Ditto. I'm honored that you asked me to come on. I'm honored to be here. I love watching you and what you're doing, and the way that you're empowering females is also incredible. And I'm so happy to be behind you and supporting you and doing so. So I can't wait to share this episode on my social media.
You and me both. Lindsay, thank you for being here. My lovely listeners, thank you. Why didn't they tell us? Listen, I got to tell you something. They did tell you. So listen up. Be you. Be willing to fail. Failure does not mean anything unless you make it mean something. You only fail if you quit. Why didn't they tell us that? I don't know. But luckily, Lindsay came on today to tell us. So thank you for being here. Love what you hear? Well, I'd love to hear from you. You can find me at confidencecoachforgirls.com. That's confidencecoachforgirls.com. Or email me at lesliethelifecoach@gmail.com. That's lesliethelifecoach@gmail.com. Hope to hear from you.